Hello, my name is Morgan Govakar. I'm a junior at Wabash College, and today I'll be presenting on the 2024 Texas U.S. Senate race. The two main candidates here are incumbent Republican Ted Cruz and Democrat Colin Allred. Both of these candidates have taken different tracks to this race, and Ted Cruz is more of your traditional politician, been a lifelong politician, has an undergraduate degree from Princeton University, a JD degree from Harvard Law School, and has had his Senate seat since 2013. Allred, on the other hand, is a little bit more of your unorthodox. Um, Played football at Baylor University, went on to the NFL, and eventually, after his NFL and professional football career, came to politics, where he has been a congressman since 2018 for Texas's 32nd district in Dallas. And why this race is so important, not just to Democrats, but also to Republicans and anybody nationwide, is because Ted Cruz has sort of been identified as a Republican, which is at risk of losing his seat to a Democratic challenger. Back last election for his Senate seat, he came really close to Beto, as he is commonly known in Texas, for losing his seat to a Democrat, and already is no different here, and seems even more so as a serious challenge as he's sort of campaigning on this notion of he's a true Texan there for the Texan people, as he's been holding more unorthodox, smaller rallies, sort of trying to get to know the people of Texas a little bit more, really have that personability factor, which Cruz kind of struggles to have due to how long he's been in this political game. Now, that brings us to the polling here. And before we get into that, there's some key technical terms that need to be covered. First, weighting, sampling, confidence interval, and margin of error. Margin of error is as it sounds, it's where how much error we believe there is in a poll, and the confidence interval is at 95% for all of these polls. And that is sort of just to highlight that we are 95% confident that X is our margin of error in this poll, plus or minus. Sampling, that's just who we're giving this poll to, who we're administering the poll to. And then weighting is how we adjust that sample to sort of just bring down and take a population which we might have oversampled, which is a minority in the real population, to make it match where they are, but give us a more accurate depiction of what that demographic is thinking. Now, as far as data collection goes for this Senate race, as you can see here, I have been collecting polls with this race, and really there's been a great influx since already Cruz had their Texas Senate debate here just a couple weeks ago in Texas. And it's really important to note that these polls have been collected all the way back from January 1st, and that those trends will be further delved into in just a moment. Now, the main pollsters in this are the University of Texas at Austin and their Texas Politics Project, the University of Houston Hobby School of Public Affairs, and the Hispanic Policy Foundation. It is important to note, however, that key players, as always, New York Times Siena poll, Emerson College, Marist poll, et cetera, are really pumping out polls reflecting the nature and intensity of this election and really the weight it holds on control of the Senate come this presidential and general election. Now, as we can see here, as previously mentioned, the trends for this election have largely been in favor of Cruz, and there are very few polls which actually show Allred as a favorite candidate to come out on top in this Senate election. Now, it is important to note that as we can see here in this trend from ABC News in 538, um, Allred is closing a gap on Ted Cruz. However, in many polls that I have been looking at, it doesn't seem as though that gap is enough to overcome Ted Cruz at the moment. However, it is important to see that trend and that closing where instead of polls looking a little bit more as if they're 44% for Allred, maybe a 55% for Cruz, or maybe even a 53% for Cruz, 47% for Allred. Those numbers keep on coming closer and closer and closer to now where we're seeing a little bit more, polls where we are looking at more of a 50-50 even split between the two candidates, really highlighting how this race is going to be one which comes down to the ballot and is going to be a real toss-up come election day. However, I would predict that going into this, Ted Cruz is a favorite to win this just by purely what the polls are reflecting here. Now, it is important to note that these polls are only a prediction and that until election day comes, we can't really notice what's going on here. However, through extensive research and just sort of really seeing how these polls are playing it out and how Texans are reacting to these two candidates, Allred, although you'd think that he has a little bit of less controversy, he's more of those Texan roots that he'd be favored to win this event, to win this election. I actually do predict Ted Cruz to come out on top in this election. Thank you very much.